thought that this would sit on a shelf and it'd be Wanna Date. Like, no one would know Melissa Bartow behind it. It would be like this big brand one day. Shark Tank kind of changed all that because I suddenly became like the face of Wanna Date, like the entrepreneur behind Wanna Date that people like.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Videocraft show presented by Husky. I am your host, Jon Santiago, and each week I interview content creators about their stories, strategies, and experiences of building an online audience through video. And this week, a little bit of a twist in terms of who I am speaking to. I am actually speaking to someone who is an entrepreneur first and creator second. And if you are a creator who is interested in launching and selling your own physical product, then this episode is for you. I chat with Melissa Bartow, the CEO and founder of Wanna Date, a delicious fruit spread perfect for toast, yogurt, and so much more. In fact, I got a jar right here. Check this out. Wanna Date. It's amazing. wannadate.com. Now, Melissa fell in love with dates after realizing they were a nutritious alternative to the unhealthy snacks she enjoyed to satisfy her sweet tooth. While studying at NYU, she bought a food processor and concocted her first batch of date spread from the comfortable confines of her dorm room. Not long into her entrepreneurial journey, Melissa landed the opportunity of a lifetime when television producers from the hit TV show Shark Tank invited her to pitch Wanna Date to investors. The appearance boosted her profile and gave her fledgling's food startup a spike in exposure and sales. Today, Wanna Date is still definitely going strong, and Melissa is leveraging the power of social media to share her brand story as well as her own through video. And in this conversation, I chat with Melissa about what it was like to audition for Shark Tank and how she handled the influx of sales that came from her following her appearance, why creating video content is proving to be a powerful approach to building her brand, how she thinks about pricing her product, very important if you are getting to or starting to sell something to people, and finding and landing deals with distributors. She is actually distributed through Whole Foods, and learning how to let go and outsource tasks such as video editing and graphic design to grow her business. Before I jump into the conversation with Melissa, I want to ask all of you for a quick favor. Could you please jump in and visit Apple Podcasts and leave us a review, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the best ways to show support for the show, and leave us a comment as well. If you're watching the show on YouTube, hit the like button, smash it, as some YouTubers say. It really does help us with the YouTube algorithm and brings this show in front of more content creators just like you and aspiring entrepreneurs too. So with that said, let's go ahead and toss it to my conversation with Melissa Bartow, the CEO of Wanna Date Fruit Spread. Melissa Bartow, thank you for joining me on this episode of the Videocraft show presented by Video Husky. It is great to have you on.
I'm very excited to be on, so thank you for having me.
Yeah, you know, I got to say I'm excited because I got some Wanna Date spread, and I am like, I'm in love with this stuff. I'm serious.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know you had some.
I bought a 4-pack. I bought a 4-pack actually of like, I got the cinnamon, the pumpkin spice. I got the chocolate. What else did I get? Oh, and the vanilla. And I've been eating the chocolate so far, and I can see why you fell in love with dates.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you like the spreads. This just made my day.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Like, honestly, like this, you're not paying us to do this whatsoever, but no. I endorse Wanna Date. Like, for anybody out there listening or watching the podcast, you should definitely check it out. We're going to obviously be talking about that in this episode. And, you know, before we do get into like the entrepreneurship and business side of things, where I like to start a lot of times with guests is kind of just like their origin stories of like how they got to where they are today. I'm just really curious, like at a young age, were you ever at all interested in entrepreneurship?
From a young age, not at all, really. I thought I was going to be like a neurologist, or I wanted to be a brain surgeon or a brain doctor.
Wow. Okay.
I actually looked at colleges for that even. That's how far I thought I was going to go with it and be in med school and everything.
Really? So then what made you decide to go to NYU?
A big turning point was at the very end of high school. I had to take like an art credit to graduate. I was like trying to get a high GPA and taking hard classes. And then I was like, oh, art. I mean, I was always a creative person growing up and a creative kid, but in that art class, there was a day where we had to bring in a photograph and like draw it exactly as we saw it. And I did that. And it was not to brag, but like, I'm really good at drawing and didn't really ever know that. And my art teacher kind of looked at me and said, you're talented. Have you ever thought of a career like as an artist or in design or something along these lines? And I was like, well, I mean, I love everything creative from photography to drawing, but I'm not going to be a struggling artist when I grow up. I'm going to be a brain doctor. And, but no, I took her advice seriously and thought, you know what, I could totally see myself being like a creative director at a big brand or whatever, because I love business. I love critical thinking, and I was a pretty smart kid. So from there, I kind of switched paths and said, bye med school. I'm going to go off to New York City and work at a big brand and like be the whole creative design mind behind it.
Yes. Tell me about the program that you did at NYU. Now, again, for everybody out there listening, like Melissa studied at NYU, graduated there. You studied at the Gallatin school, and it's a very interesting school because it's like they take like a very interdisciplinary approach to studies, and it's almost like you got to design your own major. Is that right?
Exactly. Correct. It's the Gallatin School of Individualized Study. That's literally the name. So people with a lot of interests or multiple interests that are very different, they can combine them in this school. So I was able to enroll in the Gallatin School of Individualized Study and take classes in NYU's Stern Business School, in their communication school, in their art school, Tisch. You're able to cross boundaries, whereas had I been a business marketing major at Stern, I would have been there and not taking graphic design at Tisch for electives. But yeah, I was able to get into the Gallatin School of Individualized Study, take classes across all disciplines, from design to drawing to marketing to business admin and operations. And at the end of the day, I kind of debated, do I want to call this major branding? Do I want to call it like what? And I had an internship at a startup halfway through my time at NYU, and it totally like gave me the entrepreneurial bug. So from there, I was like, all right, forget branding specifically. I'm going to go the entrepreneurial route. And I ended up majoring in the art of entrepreneurship.
Very cool. So what was that startup? What was the job that you were doing there?
Yeah. Well, the first few internships I did were at big brands. I tried 17 magazine and realized I didn't love the corporate environment. So I went to like a smaller PR agency and got to work on multiple brands and still wasn't into it. And then did the startup thing. It was for a coconut cream soft serve. Just a guy and a girl had no idea what they were doing in like the basement. So it was total startup, and I wound up doing everything they were doing because it's really just like a matter of who can figure what out. And I thrived in that environment and wanted my own startup from there. And I knew it was in the food industry too, because I was just personally a really healthy eater and love health and fitness. So the stars aligned.
So have you always been somebody that has like, when faced with a problem, you're like, oh, let me like try and solve this or like figure this out? Or was that something that you kind of like developed there on that job?
Yeah, I've always been like type A, go-getter, outspoken, like let me lead kind of person. Not like, that's why I thrived in the environment. I mean, they didn't know what they were doing and I kind of just stepped in.
That's cool. So it was only the three of you then. It was you and then these two startup founders for this company that you were working with as an intern. Yeah,
they brought me on as an intern and I started adding a lot of value. So they started paying me and kind of hired me to do operations. They were selling at this market in New York called Smorgasburg. So I was like running their tent there on the weekends, selling the coconut cream soft serve, hiring other people and training until school started. So that was like a summer gig. And once school started, I then started working at a smoothie and acai bowl shop. And that was kind of where Wanna Date came to be, because I was also in the middle of a new class called crowdfunding for Kickstarter. And the whole purpose was come up with a business idea and create a crowdfunding campaign. And that's going to be your final project. So I kind of had to come up with something, and Want a Date came to be.
Yeah. So tell me about like the first time you had dates. Like how did you get introduced to it? Like was it at that shop?
I'm pretty sure it was about a couple months before I got my job there. They were fresh on my mind. I had just gotten into them that summer. It was the same time RX Bar kind of blew up as like the number one protein bar. And I just started seeing them at all these cafes around the city, like at the checkout, and eating them myself, like after a workout, and thinking, like dates are in this best-selling bar. I love eating dates personally. You know, there's a date bar, date syrups were a thing. And I'm like, is there a date spread? And there wasn't. And at this smoothie and acai bowl shop, we were also doing like pumpkin butter bowls, apple butter bowls, Nutella, like all these toppings. And none of them were date butter. And I was just kind of thinking, why isn't there a date butter? There has to be, but there wasn't.
So then that's how you ended up just starting going that route. Now that's interesting that you ended up you were taking a class on crowdfunding, and that's something I've definitely noted that I wanted to talk to you about, because you know, as an independent entrepreneur, and even as many creators these days, like coming up with like product ideas and whatnot, that's like one of the ways to get funding for something that you're starting up. So what were some of the things that you learned in particular from that class that you're still like using and implementing today in your business?
Yeah, well, the nice thing was it made me get into all these aspects of the business from day one. How am I going to communicate what it is to people? Is there a way to demonstrate it? You know, you have to capture how it tastes without people actually tasting it. So, I mean, you're kind of forced. You can't just write a business plan like you would in business school. You literally got to get images, video, content, people talking, text. Like, it was a campaign. And I don't even think about it till now, actually mentioning it to you. But yeah, it's definitely a way to start a business.
Yeah. How do you go about promoting that as well? Like in terms of just...
That was my project. It raised a couple of $1,000s, probably mostly from people I know. I didn't like promote it. It was for a class project.
Gotcha. Well, that's also one thing though. It starts like you kind of just start with your immediate network, right? Like I imagine that's what you were, you know, in terms of what you were doing with Want a Date initially, is like just getting it in front of people that you knew who trusted you in the beginning, right?
Yeah, it's a startup. You start small and you grow over time.
Exactly. The other thing that happened, obviously, that was such a big deal in your life is that you managed to land on Shark Tank. And the funny thing is our founder here at Video Husky, Justin Tan, when we found out that you were a client of ours, we were like, he had mentioned, oh yeah, I remember seeing her specific episode on Shark Tank. Tell me about the process to get onto that show, in terms of like pitching yourself. I mean, there's like multiple pitches involved, right? Because you have to pitch yourself to get on the show and audition, and then you actually have to pitch your product to the sharks on the show.
Yeah. There's a lot behind reality TV that we don't know as viewers, because I watched the show growing up my entire life. I've seen every episode, and pretty sure I applied online like the day I started my business. I mean, I love the show. So they have an open thing on their site. You can apply any day, anytime, just put in some basic information. And about 6 months after I did that, I was just getting on a subway in New York one night, and someone from California was calling me. And I was like, who's this? And I couldn't even hear them. So I was like, can you call me back tomorrow? And yeah, it happened to be a producer. And she's like, tell me more about your business. And I was just like, okay. And from there, yeah, they really just care about like your story, your unique product. Like, why would America care? Would it resonate with people? And you go through a ton of rounds of auditioning. Like every week we had a phone call. We would refine my pitch over script at first, and then we would do video renditions of it where I film myself practicing. There's a lot of legal stuff involved where every week they need like certain documents from you. It's a very like real serious process. And probably occurred over the course of 3 or 4 months before finally they flew me out to California to really pitch in front of the sharks.
Wow. Okay. So 3 to 4 month process of just like going back and forth. Were you just talking to a single producer, or were you having to also speak to like other people involved with the show?
It's like a team of associate producers who are responsible for like the casting process. And then once you're out in California for a few days, you finally meet and have to impress like executive producers before getting to see the sharks.
Oh, so is that in like a room as well? Like where you're actually like talking to them, and is it almost like pitching yourself in front of the sharks, like in like a panel? Or wow, okay,
you have to like re-impress them. Like they already know I'm coming, but I mean at the last second, if they don't think you're going to be good TV or whatever, they won't put you in front of the shark.
By that point too, I imagine like from having to just tell your story like so many different times, you refine the way that you are able to share it, and so by the time you get to like that level, it's second nature to you, right?
Yeah.
Like you get those repetitions in, essentially.
Yeah, there's no doubt as to why the process takes 3 to 4 months. Like by then, my pitch is memorized. Like I could do it forwards, backwards, upside down.
So tell me, what do you remember about like filming the show?
It's weird. I was in the tank pitching for roughly 35 minutes, I was told, but it felt like 2 seconds or like
Really?
30 seconds. It flew by. I thought I was in there for 5 minutes, but they said it was like 35 when I left.
Wow. Why did it feel so fast to you? Was it's just like the pressure of like the bright lights and everything?
Yeah. I can only describe it as imagine if you were, because some people actually have been like on a stage, like whether it's a high school stage or like a concert kind of stage where there's all these lights at you and you can kind of see the people in front of you, but you can't really. And you're just on this platform and the adrenaline's rushing. So yeah, that's probably why it flew. It was just chaos in there. The sharks actually talk over each other and like don't even care the entire time. And I guess the way they do that is because after the fact in editing, before it's on TV, they mess with the mics and like they'll turn off people's mics, cut different shots. But while they're in the tank, everyone's mic is on and everyone's just like talking over each other. So it's just chaotic. It's not like what you see on TV.
Gotcha. So like, well, how much so you're out there for like 35 minutes is a lot of like the discussion during that half hour that you're up there. Is it like happening between them where they're kind of like, you're kind of just standing there in this awkward position, just like watching them argue about your business?
Yeah. They're like standing there talking to each other about the dates and like what they would do with it and stuff. And I'm like, well, I could tell you.
Yeah. That's interesting that but they eventually, like, as they're doing that, then they turn to you and then ask you like follow-up questions and whatnot, which is what ended up happening. What about like, were you there filming with, I imagine they're like filming also with other, other hopeful entrepreneurs and stuff like that. Like in the back, did you have a chance to like interact with other business people?
Yeah. You get to know a small group of people that kind of you get shuffled around with, like vans to and from hotels. So I made like 3 really close friends with other business owners that pitched back then. So we still talk today because you go through an experience with them that quite literally no one else can relate to. So you just bonded immediately.
Yeah. So and you're able to kind of like share war stories essentially.
Exactly.
With
it
them.
feels like we went to war together.
Exactly. When Mark Cuban offers you that $100,000 for a 33% stake in your business, like what do you remember about that specific moment? What's going through your mind? I
just remember when the sharks started going out one by one. I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this is like how it happens on TV. No, stop. Because like first one said they were out and then the next starts talking. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is literally like the end, because I've been there in all this time and stuff. And then finally it becomes kind of clear as to what's happening. And then it got down to Mark and I could tell he was interested and he made a couple of comments. I wanted to be his partner. I went in like thinking Mark or Lori were my ideal sharks. So I was so happy when he made his offer. I tried to counter, but he like immediately shut me down. I kind of went in with the mindset that I wasn't going to give up more than like half equity of my company. That'd be insane. Yeah. So I was really willing to take any offer at that point.
Yeah. Why Lori and Mark in particular? What was it about them that you were thinking, okay, I think they would be like the best fit for me in terms of if they were like to make me an offer?
Well, I was there because there's 6 sharks total, but only 5 are there on the days. So everyone was there but Robert with me. Damon's mostly like clothing kind of stuff.
Yep.
Barbara does a lot of food, but she kind of insulted me pretty hardcore when I was in there.
Yeah, that was pretty, she was pretty harsh about that because she just kind of like called you out for, still being supported by your dad, right? Like how did that, in that moment, like that had to be like very stinging.
It still stings today.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember her saying that and I'm just like, it's just insulting. I can only assume she said that like for the sake of entertainment TV because it was just so ridiculous. At that point, they know everything we've got. They film this twice a year, every year. It's their job. They know what all these entrepreneurs go through to get there. Like, it's not a joke to be standing there in front of them at this point. She's an entrepreneur herself. She knows it's not a joke. I don't know. It was just so like left field. It was the weirdest thing. As weird, I mean, you can see on TV, my face like drops when she says it.
You actually like when I watched the clip, like I didn't see the whole episode, but when I watched that clip of like of her saying the things that she said to you, you actually like, in terms of like your facial expression, you weren't like you handled it well to me, like from like watching how your reaction was. It didn't seem like it like completely, I wouldn't have been able to tell like, oh my God, like you just pierced my soul with that statement. I know like if I were in your position, I would probably I'd feel the same. I'd feel like really horrible myself too, in terms of just being insulted personally like that.
Yeah. I mean, I was personally insulted. So my response was something along the lines of, I mean, yes, my dad supports me. First of all, I was thinking like, what the hell? Like, I just graduated from college 2 weeks ago. Of course I'm supported by my parents. I don't know how, like, what? Like, everyone I just graduated with is still supported by their parents. Yeah. We just graduated. It was weird. So that's what I was thinking, but I ended up saying like, yeah, I'm supported by my parents. I won't be homeless if this fails. What? I don't know. And then I cried. And that was the biggest annoying thing is because like, I'm not like a crier. Like, it's just she personally insulted me. And then I started feeling it coming. I'm just like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. But I did.
Well, it's like the thing is, with business, I think, we kind of see, there is like this image that's portrayed of like business people as like they're so determined and they're able to do it all on their own. And when in reality, you get into like the stories of people like yourself and other business people who've been successful in the past, like it's really not, it's not like that at all. They have plenty of help along the way and they do many things that like, they don't do like the traditional things or the things that people assume, like I just give everything up for this single business, and I remember reading Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. And, that was just such a fascinating look at entrepreneurship because I mean, it seemed like for 20 years, like the first 20 years of Nike, the company was like on the verge of failure, like all the time. So much so that he had to go back and like go back to teaching at Portland State University while he was still running the business.
Yeah. No, I mean, the startup stories, everyone has them. She has her own, Barbara. Where she was supported by like her spouse or something and, living in like a small little New York apartment. After the fact was nice. Like when the episode aired, I got a gazillion emails of people saying, hey, I did the same thing. Like my parents supported me. I wouldn't be where I am today. Like don't let her get to you. Or parents saying, hey, if you were my kid, I'd be so proud of you. I support my son or daughter who's in XYZ school right now. And like, they'll be just like you one day. So yeah, America resonated with me, if anything.
Wow. So you got a lot of like outreach, people just coming, just sending you emails or like reaching out to you on social media, just kind of trying to encourage you to keep going.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not a big Twitter person, but apparently Barbara got a lot of heat for saying that when the episode aired on Twitter. Like,
so tell me also about, other than just people reaching out to you personally to kind of encourage you, like what kind of impact did that have? Like, I'm sure you saw like probably like this major spike, right, of like interest, because it's essentially like free marketing for yourself. Like that's the great thing about that show is like, even if nobody funds you, or if you get like very little funding from one of the sharks, it's a free advertisement for you. It's a great PR.
Yeah, totally. I mean, my sales, skyrocketed overnight. It doesn't last forever, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really just the Shark Tank effect, as they say. And it lasts a few days when people watch it, they DVR it and stuff. So it's absolute chaos because your business more than quadruples. I don't know how you say like 100x, but it does that overnight. Yeah,
it's like having a viral video that you didn't expect to like just blow up. It's like, oh my God, I did not anticipate this getting like 10 million views, and then you don't necessarily know how to, or you might have trouble like handling all of that inbound. Was that something that you faced as you got all of that exposure, like in terms of just people requesting new orders and whatnot?
Yeah. I mean, I had partnered with like a fulfillment company to help me. So I wasn't physically packing them those days, but I straight up spent 3 days glued to my laptop, just answering emails. That was it. Like customer service emails for solid 72 hours straight before I actually stopped and was like, took an hour away from my laptop. It was nuts.
Wow. I want to talk to you more about business in a moment, but I do want to touch on just your, the creative side that you're doing things. Obviously, as I alluded to, you are a client of ours at Video Husky. We appreciate that. And you're creating video content, a mix of video content from like ads, also to like vlogs and whatnot. And now I know you're doing like some short form video content. So tell me about, why you've decided to turn to video as like a platform to kind of share your story as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I started my Wanna Date YouTube in, I think, October of last year. So it's been almost a year. Mm-hmm. And I was doing the filming and editing of everything for the first couple dozen videos I posted, and then got to the point of needing to outsource my time and doing that. But I looked around. I tried actually hiring a video editor on just like a freelance website for a minute, but I don't know. I ended up finding you guys through searching, kind of based you off your competitors, and like watched review videos on YouTube of like which one to use, and really liked the idea of how you guys have the right to collaborate on edits. Cause that was the biggest pain point with a freelancer, was like telling them in a nice way too, like, can you change this? Yeah. But with Reich, it's just so straightforward. Like you're on the screen, you're literally circling what you want changed, writing it on screen, boom, and it gets done.
Yeah. So what were the difficulties in terms of like trying to find like an editor to work with? I mean, as you mentioned, you went through, you searched like reviews online and whatnot. And then actually like having to evaluate someone, that can be challenging. So I'm just kind of curious about like what those challenges were to kind of like, trust someone to like outsource your videos to be edited to.
Yeah, I think it was Upwork. I found someone, but even then, as soon as you get someone and they're capable of editing a video, it's like, how do you even begin? Like writing a storyboard in a way they understand it. Whereas with Video Husky, you guys have the systems in place, and I just step right into it and it works, which I love. And it's freed up my time so much. It's unfreaking believable. I love it.
Awesome. Well, as far as like creating the content itself, in terms of like shooting everything and like organizing all of your footage, like how do you stay organized? How do you stay, in order with everything that you're putting together?
It kind of comes naturally to me. I mean, just as I'm a creative person. So from creating Wanna Date to creating a YouTube video, in my head, I kind of see how it's going to play out visually. So as I'm filming it, I already kind of know how I want it to look when it's all said and done. And then it's a matter of reverse engineering that through explaining it and like separating and organizing the files, the pieces of the puzzle. We're going to use a metaphor. And then, so they kind of all piece together in the right way at the end of the day.
Gotcha. So tell me about how like your creative process like plays out for yourself. Like when you come up with an idea for a video, right? Like how does it go from like idea to then actual like execution to then, passing it along to your editor to create something like a final product?
Yeah, for vlogs and like recipe stuff, it's pretty straightforward because I kind of format them all the same. And I'll make one of those like at least once a month, hopefully twice. When it comes to like a talking head video, that's kind of straightforward as well because it's very linear in the format. And then something weirder, like I just did a video where I was at Zion National Park and I kind of mashed that into a travel vlog, but also I wove in conversation of like lifestyle entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. And I knew I was going to do that as I was filming, like as I was planning my trip, thinking, how can I make a YouTube video that has anything to do with wanna date and business when I'm camping? I was like, I'm not going to bring date spreads there. They'd like go bad. I'm in the park for 3 days. I was like, let's keep it real. I'm going there as like taking a mental break from business. Let's talk about that while I'm there. And I mean, not every business can do that. I'm just really involved and honest with mine. My brand is me in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. So it comes really natural.
Yeah, no, that's something I definitely want to touch base with you on because I did watch that vlog of yours of where you did talk about like finding balance and stuff like that when it comes to running a business, which I think we all have challenges doing, whether it's like running our own business or just work in general. It's super hard to do. But also too, like you are also, would you say you're still pretty active on Instagram as well? Like, and with that, like, how are you going about like managing like all the different like social platforms for yourself? Because like with a job as well, that can be quite overwhelming when you're thinking about like creating so much different content for different places.
Yeah, it definitely is. I try to repurpose a lot of it. So if I'm filming like a day in the life vlog or recipes, in the midst of doing that, I'll make sure I take some vertical stuff really quick or a straight pull from the YouTube edit that you guys do for me, crop it into like a square format and put that on Instagram or put it into a reel vertically.
Gotcha. And so would you have any recommendations for anybody out there, whether it doesn't have to necessarily be for whether they're working with us, but just working with like a video editor in general, like to get the most out of working with a video editor? What would you say are like some maybe like best practices in terms of like communication or other things, again, to just kind of get the most out of someone that is handling the editing of your videos?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like there's two ways to go about it. Like for me, as a creative visionary kind of person who sees how it's going to look while it's being done, you guys are the best because I could tell you my vision and you really bring it to life. Whereas if the entrepreneur or person doing the YouTube is more into the information than how it looks artistically and comes together, then, they might have no problem really handing it off to someone who's more visionary than them and letting them just go with it because they didn't have a vision in their head to begin with. Yeah. So they'll be happy with whatever comes out.
So with that process, like, are you writing like detailed scripts or anything like that, or just like detailed outlines of like what you want the videos to ultimately look like for the editor to follow, or are you doing something else?
What I find works best is that I do as perfect or well as I can filming the clips so that there's less edits that need to be made. If I film a clip and there's no stuttering, it's very straightforward, like my quote script is said to a T, then the editor really is more so putting things into place, making transitions, effects, easier stuff.
Gotcha. And also in terms of like getting comfortable in front of the camera, right? Like that is something like even me, like I still have trouble, like, holding a camera in front of my face in like public and stuff. And I know you've done like a couple of vlogs and whatnot where you're like, walking around with like a GoPro or like camera, selfie mode, selfie style. How have you managed to like develop like a level of comfort of just like walking around and like filming yourself in public while other people are kind of going about their day?
Yeah, I credit New York and like my dad a lot to me being that way because my dad's that way. He'll go out in public and like not care what anyone thinks. And I watched him be that way my whole life. And then in New York too, that's where I lived the last 6 years and really wanted it came to be. Like New York, no one cares who you are, what you
Yeah.
do. Everyone's doing is somebody. So walking, yeah, it kind of bred me into this being and now like put me in any place. I don't even care.
I'm curious too about your dad. Like he's played such an integral role in your life. Like in what other ways has he kind of influenced you and kind of help you become the kind of person that you are today?
Yeah, I totally wanted to be just like him when I was a kid and when I grew up. I was like a big daddy's girl and I played a lot of sports, especially basketball. And he was like, not my coach, but as big a supporter and whatnot. So we spent so much time together as I was growing up. He's an entrepreneur too. He had like a door business kind of situation. He used to work at Home Depot and I watched him be an entrepreneur growing up. I watched the way he would carry himself, just all this stuff. And I wanted to be outgoing and carry myself and be an entrepreneur eventually the way he was and what I saw. So I credit him to being the best role model by
Very
far.
cool. Very cool. Now, to talk more about the business side of things, I'm really curious about what would you say are like the biggest hurdles that you have to overcome at this stage in business where, you know, you've been around for a little while. You're established because of your appearance on Shark Tank and whatnot. I mean, you now probably have like a customer base like me who's probably going to just start like referring people to this stuff and sharing it with others. But I'm curious, of course, like as I mentioned when I'm talking about like the Nike story, reading Phil Knight's memoir, that it's not just like a straight line up, right? Like even after Shark Tank, I'm sure you've had moments where it's like, cool, that was an amazing spike. And then, oh crap, I'm like, there's a bit of like a hangover period. And then we kind of have to like build things up again. So I'm really just curious about like those hurdles that you have to deal with in your business.
Yeah. With business, I've come to like learn that a lot of the hurdles, like you don't even see them coming. They're just woven into the environment of the world we live in. So like COVID comes out of nowhere. A Shark Tank re-airing will come out of nowhere. And you just have to like adapt to the environment at those times. Some hurdles you see coming, like the holiday season or whatever. And you could take advantage of the fact that you see it coming and like fly over it or whatever. So yeah, it's really like just trying to stay ahead of what's currently happening and always see what's coming in terms of the business environment, and then controlling what you can control to the best you can. So like the customers I already have and acquired, keeping them happy, keeping them coming back, keeping them entertained with content, creating new products to sell them. And then from there, trying to acquire new customers. Cause I mean, that's just how you naturally grow a business. You have to have more customers. It's not always like you need more retail stores. You have to still have the customer at the end of the day coming back. Otherwise, you're spending all your time on a hamster wheel trying to get new ones.
Yeah. Tell me more about like customer retention and just kind of building loyalty among new, customers who try the spread for the first time and then you want them coming back for more. Like how are you going about doing that and just kind of like creating all the content and just kind of executing on that front to make sure that people want to come back? Of course, I know it's the initial start of that is just to make like a really good product that people like, but then beyond that, like how are you thinking about that, like from a marketing standpoint?
Yeah, definitely starts with the product, making it taste great, then implementing like systems such as a subscription where they can replenish it, keep them literally like in your pocket. And then keeping them engaged with content, whether that's email marketing, YouTube videos, social media. Everyone spends their time somewhere. Ultimately, no one's like 100% off their phone and computer if they're buying your product on the internet. So you just have to find where they are and try to find out how to reach them, like amongst all the noise of everyone else trying to reach them too. And it seems like the best way to do that is just speaking like from me, because no other business is Melissa Bartow, the entrepreneur founder, talking to you. So it's the best way to rise above the noise.
So are you writing like all of your copy on your website and even your emails too? That's what, as a marketer myself, I'm fascinated by that. Like I kind of nerd out of like, oh, what is like the, what is like the confirmation email that she's going to send? And I was curious. I was like, it was very personal. I'm like, oh, I wonder if she actually wrote this email herself, or did she hire somebody like a copywriter to do it for her?
I mean, don't start a business if you don't have a voice or something to say or a person you want to talk to. Like, you shouldn't start a company because you think you're going to get rich off of it. Sure, do a drop shipping Amazon thing or something very not personal where it doesn't matter that you're not involved. But if you want to be a brand and you're selling your passion, you better be happy to sell your passion to people. And that's just me. So it's natural. It is what it is. I didn't know what I was really doing when I did it, but it kind of worked out.
Yeah. How did you find your voice? You know, I think it's easy to say like, yeah, I just was myself, but you know, like the way that you talk in person is obviously like very different. It translates differently when you're turning that into writing, or even like translating that into video content as well. Like, was that something that was a bit challenging at times for you to do, or did it kind of come naturally?
Well, I definitely thought before any of this really came to be, and I was a student with an idea in the Kickstarter campaign class, I thought that this would sit on a shelf and it'd be wanna date. Like, no one would know Melissa Bartow behind it. It would be like this big brand one day. Shark Tank kind of changed all that because I suddenly became like the face of Wanna Date, like the entrepreneur behind Wanna Date that people liked. So I credit Shark Tank a lot to that. I was already on my Instagram stories before Shark Tank to the very few followers I had, but Shark Tank like made me become in a way the face. Like that's why I then put my face on the thank you email to people, because I was preparing for all these people to place an order right then and there. And it got like insane open rates. So I was like, oh, let's just keep it. Yeah. So kind of Shark Tank happened that way, but it also made me realize the importance of the entrepreneurial story as well. Like it's not just a brand that sits on a shelf. That's not Wanna Date. Some brands, sure. But Wanna Date's going to be the one where it's about entrepreneurship as much as it is like the healthy product, like the story behind it. It all ties together.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's very compelling when, you know, you find out that you created this by experimenting in your dorm room, and that you applied to be on Shark Tank and had all of those experiences. That's definitely something that sticks with people when they're like considering what your product versus like, you know, a competitor or something like that, you know. I'm also very curious too about like distribution and how you've managed to figure out ways to get your product on the shelves of grocery stores, because you're obviously doing direct to consumer with your e-commerce store directly, but at the same time you've managed to also land some distribution at Whole Foods, right? In the Midwest primarily at this point, or have you gotten to expand?
So it's the whole Midwest region of Whole Foods. And then from there, it's more scattered. We're in probably like a dozen stores in New York, New Jersey, some Connecticut, Northeast area. And actually Whole Foods is in the middle of like a total restructuring. So who knows what's going to happen in the next year. But otherwise it was structured in a way, and this is pretty much all grocery, regionally. So they all operate independently. If a regional spread buyer in the Midwest likes Wanna Date, they're allowed to bring it on. And if Northeastern spread buyer at Whole Foods doesn't like Wanna Date, they won't bring it on. And then in the rare instance that like you connect with the right person and the stars align, they could just roll you out nationwide.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really just a matter of like timing. They have to, cause there's so much behind it too. It's not as simple as like you just get on the shelf. The buyer has their own business and whole context of their own stuff behind them. What's open in their category? What is selling in their category? Like, do I have shelf space for this? How many SKUs? What would I price it at? Would that work based off all these things I know work? Yeah. It's very complicated retail, to say the least.
Yeah. How do you go about finding those buyers to actually pitch the product to?
Well, for me, as a person with no connections, I have to cold email. I have, you can work with brokers who take a commission and they have more connections than I do because they've been in this industry longer than I have, or they've been brokers for other companies as well. So I do work with like one broker for Whole Foods. I work with one broker for Whole Foods. And then even then, like he could get rejected when pitching it to a buyer. So it's more like he's just a foot in the door, but we still both have to hustle it and sell it.
Yeah. So you have to find, well, how do you go about finding that broker then? Like, what is like the Google, what is like the Google keyword that you're like, that someone who is also trying to sell like a physical product would like look up to perhaps connect with those kinds of people?
Well, I got in contact with him because he reached out to me actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that all worked. And I'm sure a lot of other, especially food entrepreneurs can vouch for this. Like we get spam emails. We get pitched by other people all the time who want to work with us. A lot of it's real. A lot of it's not real. You have to kind of gauge it. But I mean, their business is to sell products. So they reach out to people with products. What does
your email inbox look like in terms of just the outreach that you're getting, and how do you manage all the inbound?
Mostly it's spam nowadays. You could tell when it's like from a bot. Like,
yeah.
You could tell they call you, "Hi, want a date?" Because that's my website. It's like, okay, so I know you're a bot, delete. But otherwise, yeah, a lot of people trying to get business from your business. People offering to do my ads, offering to do PR for me. Just like stuff you have to be smart about. Know that what's real and what's not real, what you even need to be spending your money on. Yeah, most of it's just spam email and gets deleted unless it's someone I actually do the existing business with.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like, because I know like a lot of people, even myself included, that it's so challenging like to deal with like a cluttered inbox, and sometimes when you reach a certain level, like people reach out to you, and it can be hard to say no. But it seems like for you, you're able to kind of to surf that space pretty well, and not necessarily get too not get too overwhelmed by it, it seems.
No, I've learned how to deal with it. At first, I would spend time like actually considering various things I shouldn't be considering, but my focus is way more narrowed now, and I'm glad for that because it just saves so much time, energy, money, everything.
I also want to ask you about the manufacturing process in terms of like finding a manufacturer, in terms of finding like a factory that actually goes out and like produces the product for you. How did you go about doing that?
Yeah. So for the food industry, it's called a co-packer or a co-manufacturer. And I learned this through the smoothie and acai bowl shop I was working at, because a co-packer in Brooklyn was sending some product like pressed juices to us, and my manager like mentioned it one day, and I thought, a co-packer? Like, what the heck is he talking about? And I didn't want to sound stupid, so I Googled it later that day, like, oh, that's what he's talking about. It's a person who makes the juices and then sends them to us. So I knew what a co-packer was, like basically around the same time this Want a Date Kickstarter class was happening. I also knew at that point that I'm a business marketing person and I don't like to bake or stand in the kitchen. Like, that's not me. I'm not that person who likes making food necessarily. I'm more of just like a healthy, quick, what can I throw together kind of food person. So I knew I just was going to outsource the making of the food. I was not interested in spending 8 hours a day in like some shared kitchen in New York or Brooklyn making date spreads. I wanted to be the one selling, marketing, designing it, and went to Google, and I probably Googled food spread, fruit spread jam manufacturing, since no one makes date spreads already because they don't exist. I was like, all right, I'd imagine the process is similar to making like a fig spread. So let's find someone who makes fig spreads, but they're going to make it with dates basically. And I cold called. I was so nervous. I had no idea what I was doing. So someone would ask me questions and I'd write them down. So I was ready to answer them for the next time I called the person. And I probably called dozens and Googled and emailed dozens until finally some small one, like in Nashville, Tennessee, or like the outskirts, who made jams and jellies, was like, yeah, we could do that. Like, we make a lot of like chutneys and relishes and stuff. And yeah, they worked with my recipes. We did like small little batches. And then I've since worked with like 4 other co-packers because when Shark Tank happened, we totally outgrew his operation in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I had to find a bigger one. And then, you try to find ones with better pricing, or just at that point, since you're making so much and doing so much business with these people, you want to have a better working relationship with them. So yeah, I'm on my 4th co-packer at this point. So also anyone who's in the food industry hears me right now and knows that like co-packing is a nightmare. Like you're always changing it. It's just, yeah, it's as messy as like, imagine you're baking food in your house every day. Like that's how the process is. It could go right. It could go wrong. It's so tedious. The food industry is a hard industry.
And what about pricing too, in terms of figuring out the appropriate price to sell your product at? Because I think for anybody who is like an entrepreneur, or even now like creators who are starting to, build their own businesses, figuring out how to actually price something that the market will want, but also will like generate you a profit, that is not easy to do, right? So like how did you come to the conclusion to figure out an appropriate price for Wanna Date?
Yeah. I think when I started, I had no idea what to do. So I just looked at competitors, like the higher end fancy peanut butter spreads like Justin's or something, seeing what they were selling for per ounce and being like, can I sell it for that per ounce since it's like the same thing? And working kind of reverse engineering that too from, all right, if it costs me this much to make it and it looks like I should sell it for that amount, how much money am I going to make there? But like you lose this margin when the retailer takes it. So I ended up like weaving it and working it backwards, having known nothing. But of course, like now as I like launch a new product or like know what I'm doing, it's a much more like quick decision. Like I know how to price it because I know the retailers take 20 to 30% and the distributor takes 20 to 30%. Whereas in the beginning, I was just trying to Google this and try to figure out or reason through why other people were pricing things the way they were. And over time, I came to figure it out kind of through like trial, error, and just having no choice but to like be in it and look at my numbers and see if I was making money.
Yeah. I imagine like probably in the beginning, maybe you might have like underpriced it a little bit and then you start to see, oh wait, I'm in the red. Like I need to like raise the price a little bit here.
Luckily I didn't underprice it. I was too paranoid about doing that.
Yeah.
Cause I knew I had no idea what I was doing. And I was like, I don't want to be losing money. So in the beginning, I think I've actually had the same price since day one. I like guesstimated correctly. Wow. And it wasn't not working. So don't change it if it's working,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think there's ways to even, I think the typical, like the standard narrative sometimes in business or for some people who don't work in business is people get mad when prices get raised. But there's, the people who end up getting frustrated that a price got raised they're just no longer probably in your market, or they never were in your market. There's still somebody else out there who's willing to pay that higher price for something.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah, it's just something that, you get kind of blasted for it at times. I mean, I know that we get it, So obviously, like we have competitors out there who say this company is cheaper than them. Like they charge too much, but price is so, it can be such an arbitrary thing, really.
I have customers who will email me like 2 days ago. I probably got one. Like they'll say, I buy jam at the store for $3.99. Like when you lower your prices, like I'll be back. And I'm thinking, dude, I'd be losing money. Well, I wouldn't be, but like it's, they're telling me to price at something that quite literally is not sustainable. Like they just don't know what they don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I'm sure there are other people who are like, you should charge more for this. This is great. Like, I love this. So it's figuring out how to separate the noise, right, from like the actual signal, really. Mm-hmm. And that's probably, something that is always kind of a challenge at times. So Melissa, as we kind of wrap up here, one of the last things I do want to ask you about, and you've alluded to this a little bit here, is in terms of like finding work-life balance for yourself? Because I know like at the beginning of Wanna Date and in doing like research for this conversation, you were very like, this was your life. Like this consumed a lot of your time, a lot of your days, a lot of your weekends. And now you're trying to figure out a way to like still be very productive, but then at the same time, you know, not totally have it like consume you. So what are like your practices for doing that these days?
Yeah, I mean, it all starts really with turning off all the noise of the outside world, your competitors, what other people are doing, and like coming back to me, like, why did I start this business? Who am I? What are my goals? Where do I want it to go? And I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a small business owner. I like that. I love that. I started this for the freedom of not having to answer to anyone, not having to like be at a desk. Like, I get to decide the responsibilities I want to take on, whether that's going to be hiring 20 people and being responsible for budgets that are huge or small. It's all up to me. So that's a blessing if I do it the right way, because then I'm literally creating the life I want with the business I want. I get to decide where I do business, who I do business with, what headaches are worth my time and what headaches aren't worth my time. So I kind of lost myself in a way after Shark Tank just because there's so much hype, so many people talking to you.
All right.
I had a moment of imposter syndrome of like, you know, you see these Shark Tank success follow-up stories of people who say their businesses grew overnight and now they have 20 employees, blah, blah, blah. And part of me was thinking I'm supposed to go that route, but it's like, no. Like, Melissa, you're an entrepreneur. Like, you didn't go any route traditionally. You still don't have to go any route traditionally. So I try to outsource as many things as possible. So I use you guys now for my videos. I use a 3PL for fulfilling my Shopify orders, co-packer to make the spreads. It's constantly me doing the business, kind of fine tuning and becoming an expert at that part of the business before I'm ready and I know how I'm going to outsource it. And then finding the right person or agency or ways and means to outsource it. Besides the things I just listed, I have a really awesome freelancer who I collaborate with to do Facebook ads and Instagram stuff. So, you know, I still make most of the content, but they push it and budget it and manage it, you know, by the day, whereas I don't. I have virtual assistants in like the Philippines who I use to do like a lot of design stuff. It's a website called Design Pickle, just like Video Husky actually, but for photo and like
we don't Design Pickle.
Yeah,
we don't
I love Design Pickle.
A lot of people have actually like said to us like, "Oh, you're kind of like Design Pickle but for video."
You are, and that's why I love both of you. So yeah, I outsource a lot of things, and my day is then spent like directing or directly communicating with my customers, because that's one thing that'll probably be the last thing I outsource. Like, my customers come first, I'll be the one talking to them, and they want to talk to me anyway, so it works. I mean, until I have too many customer emails, but that's not the case. Like, I have time for them. So I put that first, and then it's a matter of communicating with now my team at Video Husky, Design Pickle, the 3PL, like checking in on everyone every day and keeping the business going.
Is that hard to learn how to let go of some of the things in your business? Because I know that is definitely, you know, something that I hear from definitely like from a creator standpoint too, in terms of, you know, the creators that I've interviewed who still edit their own videos. They feel like, well, nobody can actually like, they can't really like capture it's hard to get somebody else to like capture the essence of like my creativity. Cause the edit does really make a huge difference. You know, it is how the story gets told, and so it can be difficult to kind of let go of those things. But I'm wondering if it was something for you that was, you know, a process in terms of learning to say, all right, I got to actually like give this to somebody else and let them handle it. Even though I can do it, it's just going to free me up to do other things that I want to do.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a full-time like YouTuber, it's definitely going to be the hardest thing for them to let go. Like, that's their bread and butter is their video. For me, it was easier to outsource because it's just a small side of what I do. The hardest thing to like up till now that I outsourced was the order fulfillment, because I was packing it exactly how I wanted the customer to open it, and they would get this card and like there'd be confetti. But scalably, like my time isn't well spent, like doing that all day, every day, or overseeing people doing it all day, every day. And it's not the lifestyle I want. So that was the hardest to let go. And yes, you do have to compromise then. I can't still do confetti because it's not like practical and scalable at that point. Same way a YouTuber has to let go of some creative control and compromise a little less on their vision for the sake of having more time and someone else to do it for them.
Gotcha. Well, Melissa, this was a fun conversation to have, incredible conversation to have. And I'm waiting till lunchtime. I actually don't eat breakfast, so I'm waiting till lunchtime to start eating more of your date spread. Cause again, it's really good. Everybody go get some wannadate.com. This is amazing. I can't wait to try the cinnamon, but the chocolate so far has been
cinnamon and chocolate are the best sellers. So wait till you try the cinnamon.
Oh my God. Got me excited about that. Yeah, I definitely will. Well, Melissa, again, thank you so much for coming on the show and and sharing your story with me, and also just giving some insights also into entrepreneurship. I think that's going to be something that will be valuable for this audience of people who are creating content and maybe like shifting in that direction of like, how can I actually like build a business now that I have a bunch of people who, pay attention to what I do. This was fun.
Yeah. And beyond that, even like YouTube and SEO with Google, like video is everything now. So for the entrepreneurs out there, they didn't know that. You can get a lot of Google traffic through YouTube. So go create videos with VidHusky.
Thanks again to Melissa for joining me on this show. We are going to have everything that she talked about and discussed on the show notes page for this particular episode. All you have to do is go to www.videocraftshow.com, where you can find a complete archive of this episode, including this episode, as well as past episodes of the Videocraft Show. If you enjoyed this episode, could you please share it with a friend, share it with someone who you think would find the content valuable? And secondly, if you are a content creator that struggles to organize and script your ideas, then get a copy of our free script template. It can help you structure your videos and save you hours of time from filming in the process. To download it, just go to videocraftshow.com, or if you're watching here on YouTube, find the link in the description below and just subscribe to our email list. It'll get delivered straight to your inbox right after you sign up. And also, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. We're always looking to make the show better. And so your feedback, both good and bad, helps us to improve. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button, smash it, punch through it, punch the like button. I don't know if that's a thing that you can do, but if you can, just punch the like button. Helps us with the YouTube algorithm and gets this show in front of other creators just like you. And share the episode too. Share it, pass it along via text message or DM, however you choose. It really does help spread the word and bring more awareness to the show. Of course, I want to thank my team for helping me to produce the show. Gotta always thank Nikki Vicente as well as Ingrid Saraiba on all their work producing and editing the show, as well as Paulo Lopez for all the work that he does making our nifty graphics, including our thumbnails, as well as the rest of the crew over at Video Husky. And yes, Video Husky, we are a company that provides video editing to you, content creators. So if you want your videos to be edited to look just like this, then visit videohusky.com to learn more. We will see you next week on another episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky.